Johnny Depp's Madrid portraits are not just paintings. They are whispers of his soul, unspoken words splashed onto canvas with bold strokes and vivid colors. When you look at them closely, you realize they're not only art, they're a statement. A declaration. A silent but powerful message to the world: I'm still here. I've survived. And I've come back stronger. But what's the real story behind these portraits? Why did Johnny choose Madrid as his place of rebirth? Why are these artworks stirring so much curiosity and emotion in his fans? Johnny Depp's life has been an extraordinary journey, filled with fame, creativity, heartbreak, and controversy. He's been celebrated as one of Hollywood's most talented and unique actors, but he's also faced moments where the world turned against him. And yet, through all the storms, he's found a way to rise, to transform, and to express his truth. These portraits are not just pretty paintings. They carry pieces of that story. They're raw, honest, and deeply personal. Every brushstroke feels like it comes from a place of both pain and power. And when you see them, you can't help but wonder, what is Johnny trying to tell us? Imagine this for a moment. After years of being in the public eye, having his private life turned into headlines, and being judged by millions of strangers, Johnny finally steps away from it all. He travels to Madrid, not for the spotlight, not for the cameras, but for himself. He walks through narrow cobblestone streets, past old cafes and tucked-away art galleries. Maybe, for the first time in years, he's just a man, not a celebrity, soaking in the energy of a city that lives and breathes art. Madrid is a place of passion. It's a city where history and modern creativity collide in the most vibrant way. And for Johnny, that was exactly what he needed. He wasn't looking for glitz and glamour, he wanted freedom. A place to create, to reflect, to rebuild. Now, think about what it means to start over. Have you ever had to pick yourself up after life knocked you down? Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, I have to rebuild myself from scratch? That's where Johnny was. And instead of running away or hiding, he picked up a paintbrush and decided to turn his story into art. The first time he sat down in that quiet Madrid studio, I imagine there was a moment of silence, a kind of calm after the storm. He dipped his brush in paint, and every stroke was like a release. A way to let go of the anger, the hurt, the weight of everything he'd been through. These portraits aren't random. They're deliberate, filled with symbols and emotions. Look closely, and you might notice the way the colors clash yet harmonize, reds that scream passion and defiance, blues that whisper sadness and reflection, and bold lines that feel like they're cutting through the chaos of his past. One art critic described Johnny's paintings as visual letters. Letters that speak to anyone who has ever been broken, doubted, or underestimated. And that's why they resonate with so many people. We all know what it feels like to fight through challenges. We all know what it means to want to prove ourselves, not with words, but with actions. Why Madrid, though? Of all the places in the world, why did Johnny find his inspiration there? The answer lies in the city's heartbeat. Madrid is not just about famous museums or big art events. It's about raw, unpolished creativity. It's about artists who paint not because they want fame, but because they must. Because art is the only way they know how to survive. Johnny has been spotted wandering the small, hidden galleries of Madrid, places where you can still smell the fresh paint on the walls, where young artists show their work for the first time. Can you picture him there? Dressed simply, maybe in his signature hat, quietly observing the colors and textures, letting it all sink in. That's the kind of environment that feeds the soul. And let's not forget, Johnny has always been more than an actor. He's a musician, a writer, and yes, an artist. He's been painting for years, but only recently has the world really seen this side of him. It's almost like he's peeling back the curtain and saying, this is who I really am. These Madrid portraits also feel like a kind of revenge, but not the angry, bitter kind. It's the kind of revenge that comes from success. From rebuilding yourself so completely that the world can't ignore you. Have you ever felt that? That urge to rise not by fighting, but by becoming the best version of yourself. That's exactly what Johnny's doing. When people look at these portraits, they see a story of survival. Of transformation. They see a man who's not afraid to confront his pain and turn it into something meaningful. And maybe that's why they're so powerful. They're not about perfection. They're about truth. There's also something deeply personal about how Johnny approaches art. He's not painting for trends or for what's popular. He's painting for himself. To heal. To express. To create something that will outlive the gossip and the noise. One fascinating detail is how his style blends influences from classic Spanish techniques with modern, almost rebellious elements of pop art. Art experts have called it a visual autobiography, a journey through colors, textures, and emotions that mirrors his life's highs and lows. And here's something you might not know, some of his early sketches from Madrid are already being talked about by collectors. People believe they'll be worth a fortune in the coming years. But that's not what makes them special. What makes them priceless is the story they tell. What I find even more inspiring is that Johnny hasn't kept his journey to himself. In Madrid, he's been quietly supporting and mentoring young artists. No big announcements. No publicity stunts. Just him, giving advice and encouragement to people who are trying to find their voice through art. Can you imagine what that must mean to those young artists? To be mentored by someone who's faced some of the hardest challenges and still found a way to create beauty out of pain. Think about it. Most of these young artists probably grew up watching Johnny on the big screen, seeing him as this larger-than-life figure. They might have admired his roles, his creativity, and the way he always brought something different to every character. Now, imagine sitting in a small art studio, with brushes and paint scattered across the table, and Johnny Depp, the very Johnny Depp, walks in, not as the Hollywood icon, but as a fellow creator who truly understands the struggles of making art. That's not just inspiring, it's life-changing. Johnny knows what it's like to have the world doubt you. He knows what it feels like to be criticized, to be misunderstood, to have your name dragged through the mud. And yet, he's still here, still creating, still finding ways to express himself. For a young artist who's trying to figure out who they are, having someone like Johnny say, "Keep going, keep painting, keep telling your story," must feel like a spark of hope. It's like being told that your voice matters, even when the world isn't listening. And here's the thing, Johnny's mentoring style isn't flashy or formal. He's not trying to be a teacher in the traditional sense. Instead, he shares his experiences in a way that's real, raw, and deeply personal. He talks about the importance of pouring your truth into your work, of not worrying about what people will say, and of staying true to your vision, no matter how unconventional it might seem. I can almost picture those moments. A group of young painters sitting around, maybe nervous at first, and then Johnny starts talking about how he uses his pain as fuel for his art. He might tell them about the nights he spent painting alone, how every color he chose had meaning, and how art became his way of taking back control of his story. For those artists, hearing this directly from him must feel like a once-in-a-lifetime gift. It's also worth noting how rare this is. In a world where so many celebrities focus on maintaining their image, Johnny is choosing something different. He's not doing this for the cameras or for attention. He's doing it quietly, because he knows how hard it can be to create something meaningful when you're just starting out. He knows how easy it is to feel like giving up when no one believes in you. And so, he chooses to be that voice of encouragement for someone else. There's a certain kind of magic in that. Because it's not just about teaching someone how to paint or how to draw. It's about showing them that their emotions, their stories, their struggles, all of it can become something powerful when it's expressed through art. It's about reminding them that being an artist is not about being perfect, but about being honest. Imagine what that does for a young painter who's feeling lost. One conversation with Johnny could be the push they need to keep going. One small piece of advice, one encouraging word, might be enough to change the way they see themselves and their work. And isn't that the kind of impact we all wish we could have on someone else? Johnny's willingness to lift others up while he's still healing himself says a lot about who he is. It shows that even when life tries to break you, you can still use your strength to help others rise. And maybe that's the most powerful part of his journey, that his art isn't just for him anymore. It's for every young dreamer who needs to see that even in the darkest times, beauty and creativity can still be born. There's this beautiful idea that keeps coming back to me when I look at Johnny's portraits. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is turn your pain into power. Have you ever tried that? Taking something that hurt you and transforming it into something meaningful? That's what these paintings are all about. And there's no doubt that these portraits are a message to his critics. They're saying, I don't need to shout or prove anything. My work speaks for itself. That's the kind of quiet strength that leaves an impact. The more you look at these paintings, the more layers you see. They're not just faces on a canvas. They're emotions, frozen in time. They're chapters of Johnny's life, told in a language that only art can speak. When I think about Johnny's journey, the highs of being one of the world's most beloved actors, the lows of public trials, and now this powerful rebirth, I can't help but feel inspired. Isn't it amazing how someone can take so much pain and turn it into something beautiful? So, here's my question for you. When you see these portraits, what do you feel? Do you see just another celebrity dabbling in art, or do you see a man who's found a new way to tell his story? Are these just paintings, or are they his ultimate comeback? I'd love to know your thoughts, so leave a comment and let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this journey into Johnny's artistic world, there's another story you can't miss, his stunning comeback, where he left the audience speechless. I've got a video on that which I'll link for you, so you can watch it next. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button if this video gave you something new to think about. Subscribe if you want more deep dives like this, and share it with someone who loves Johnny as much as you do. Johnny Depp's Madrid portraits are more than just art. They're proof that no matter how hard life tries to break you, you can always rebuild. You can always create. And sometimes, your greatest masterpiece comes from your darkest moments. And honestly, I can't wait to see what Johnny creates next.